Even before it began, 2024 was predicted to be a challenging year for all of us. Over time, this prophecy seems to be coming true. More than half of 2024 has passed, and it has never been peaceful. The most recent event involving former U.S. President Donald Trump is the clearest evidence of the chaos enveloping the world. Therefore, you should pay close attention to what we are about to say to prepare yourself for anything you may face in the coming time. Trust me, the upcoming months will be very complicated, but if you have enough faith and diligently pray, I believe that things will not be too difficult to handle. Thing happens to America. Just a few days ago, the U.S. shocked the world by announcing a startling event involving former President Donald Trump. This powerful man of America had a sudden accident. Fortunately, he is still fine. But there is one thing you should note. The moment Trump was safe, he declared to the world, "God bless America." It is evident that faith in God's providence has accompanied Trump even in moments of life and death. Anyway, this unexpected event has led to many theories. Some believe it is a conspiracy by Trump's opposition, a warning strike against him, while others think it is a plan orchestrated by Trump himself to boost his own reputation. The continuous emergence of conspiracy theories has left the world bewildered. Could this be a sign that the U.S. is facing the beginning of an unfavorable year in 2024? In terms of politics, the infighting within the Republican Party and between the two political parties in the U.S. can be seen as a competition between left and right political leanings, which in turn represent different interest groups. These interests cannot be ignored even if they represent that of only a handful of people. Competition among different interests restricts the growth and strength of a single force, inevitably leading to political infighting. However, a chaotic U.S. does not equate to a declining U.S. Looking at the chaotic U.S., its economy alone stands out among the major global economies. In the second quarter of 2023, U.S. GDP growth was at 2.1%, while inflation rate fell to 3.7% with employment at an adequate state. These are all signs of an active U.S. economy. American politics, economics, and the cultural environment have given rise to active productivity and innovation. A society that constantly innovates is one that will never decline. History has shown that an ultra-stable society is one that is stagnant and always guarding against decline. Indeed, a chaotic U.S. does not equate to a declining U.S. Dictators were unable to imagine what the U.S. would become in 1942 by observing them in 1939. What history has proven does not speak for the present, but at the very least, there is currently no sign that the U.S. is in a decline. Based on the U.S.'s share of global GDP, the U.S. is relatively declining. But using this metric to judge the U.S. in this age of globalization is outdated. A country's total production is nothing compared with its number of innovations and how it holds the high ground on innovativeness, and the U.S. reigns supreme on that front. Indeed, an economic revolution is taking place because of U.S. generative artificial intelligence, while investments in large tech firms are booming. A lot has happened in the U.S., but it cannot be denied that up until now, the U.S. remains a giant that many other countries must be wary of. No one knows what the future holds. But in 2024, and for at least a few years after that, the U.S. will continue to forge ahead. And after this unfortunate accident, will Trump gain the strength and support to return to the White House for a second term? Let's wait and see. Theories come and come. In the first meeting since his narrow survival, Trump appeared at the first Republican National Convention, where he received the official nomination for the Republican presidential nominee. When Trump arrived, he was met with thousands clapping when he entered the room. Throughout the convention, Trump wore a bandage on his ear, although still seemed energetic and enthusiastic. Throughout Trump's short appearance, his name was chanted repeatedly, and when he began to leave the stage, the crowd started chanting, "Fight, fight, fight," in response to his words after the unfortunate incident. But it doesn't stop there. There are many theories that confuse people day by day, Why an American citizen would do that to Trump? He has a documented history of saying things like, "I will be phenomenal to the women. I want to help women." No matter what you do, guns, no guns, it doesn't matter. You have people that are mentally ill, and they were going to come through the cracks, and they're going to do things that people will not even believe are possible. If Hillary Clinton can't satisfy her husband, what makes her think she can satisfy America? If you look at Saddam Hussein, he killed terrorists. I'm not saying he was an angel, but this guy killed terrorists. Sorry, losers and haters, but my IQ is one of the highest, and you all know it. Please don't feel so stupid or insecure. It's not your fault. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose voters. The quotes go on and on. I fathom that if you did a browser search on something you strongly believe in, Trump would have a negative quote attached to it. Apparently, I am a generational sucker and loser. It is easy to find quotes and disparaging remarks on the internet. Someone who feels insulted, demeaned, or dishonored by someone who is unapologetically okay with insulting, demeaning, or dishonoring them can easily be triggered by Trump. Let's combine all the information above with modern American society, and that according to experts, psychopathy spans socioeconomic status, race, gender. Narcissism is on the rise in America. It is an unintended side effect of excess and competition for more. Not only are many in competition with the people living next door, but they are now in subconscious competition with people from all over the world. Anyone with a social media account has access to anyone willing to post their lifestyle. Many social media influencers' online lives are as accurate as reality TV, and similarly accepted as reality. No one knows the system better than me, which is why I alone can fix it. Trump attests that he is the one and only. He says that those currently running the system are against your success and he can change that. Trump speaks frankly about his opinions on everything and is a disruptor of the status quo, the current way of doing things. He attests he can save us from the system. We should clarify that the system is run by humans, others with thoughts, feelings, and desires, not artificial intelligence. These humans are as fallible as any other citizen and are driven toward their version of success. Now is a perfect time to introduce the quote, "Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely." Suppose a human is in a place of power and feels the untouchability of it. The power of "I can do what I want whenever I want," then they tend to want to stay there. Imagine, if you will, having the money and influence to do anything you want, good or bad. Would you give up this power with ease? Trump faked the accident. Here is the most famous theory that Trump had to face with these days. Trump, feeling himself falling from favor after losing a court case and under an onslaught of negative media online, needs something to give a dramatic boost to his ego, following, and re-election. This is undoubtedly to be brief. It is hard enough to think about a fellow citizen or political leader sending bullets towards a human standing in front of innocents. It's more challenging to believe that a human running for political office would be narcissistic and psychotic enough to send bullets toward them and into innocents sitting behind them. Yet it is possible. Since anything is possible, most motivations listed in the other two scenarios also apply here. Someone who sees themselves as a savior, or at least presents themselves that way in media, could take any action to give them cred and test the belief that they are safe. It is okay to hire a sniper to fire bullets at you and cut yourself with a razor blade as they fire into the innocents behind him, adding them as martyrs to your cause. It is possible. Donald Trump would have to be on the maniacal level of world mastermind villains found in many tales. He would have to be deeply narcissistic, psychopathic, and desperate to prove he is the one, the savior of all. As I said, many theories have emerged after Trump's accident. You know, the more famous you are, the more people focus on you. As for the truth, let's wait and see. The relationship between China and the US. By somehow, someone believed that the US is the center of this 2024. From 2018 to 2023, US-China relations were in a linear downward spiral. The trade war, the pandemic, growing technology competition, rising tensions in the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait, and contrasting approaches to the Russia-Ukraine conflict have collectively fed a sense of fatalism that the countries were heading toward the abyss of outright economic decoupling and a disastrous military conflict. 2024 will witness intensified technological competition. National security concerns will continue to drive fierce competition between the two superpowers. The US government is likely to escalate its pressure on China, especially in the high-tech sector. 2024 is destined to be another eventful year for China and the United States, shaped by a multitude of domestic and systemic factors. The trajectory of the US-China economic and technological relations will have consequential impacts on the internal economies and political landscapes of both superpowers, with far-reaching implications for countries worldwide. But it seems that 2024 will also be a not very positive year for the tense relationship of the two sides, and once again, it reminds us of the prophecy of international war. Nostradamus, the renowned 16th-century French astrologer known for his prophetic writings, predicted a naval war in the year 2024. In his book, Les Prophéties, he ominously described a scenario where a red adversary would strike fear into the hearts of many, particularly by instilling dread in the vast ocean, according to a report by Hindustan Times. While interpretations vary, some believe that Nostradamus's prediction of a red adversary turning pale with fear could symbolize the recent tensions between China and Taiwan, aggravated by the Houthis attacks on ships in the Red Sea. These incidents have disrupted international trade, particularly impacting the oil industry dependent on Red Sea shipping routes. Moreover, Iran's aggression towards Israel has heightened regional instability, adding another layer of complexity to the situation. A sign of God's absence. There is a lot of chaos in the world, political uncertainty over forthcoming elections in the US. Instability is not only happening in the US, but seems to be spreading all over the world. The conflict between Hamas and Israel, China and the US North and South Korean. A war rages on in Ukraine, natural disaster happens around the world. All of this comes on the heels of a pandemic that has, so far, killed almost 7 million people. Thousands of us have been affected directly by disastrous events and the grief, loss, and trauma that accompany them. All of this calamity, chaos, and uncertainty, then, is surely a sign of God's absence. I can absolutely see why we could think that. Could it be, read in context, that even the instability, turmoil, and uncertainty around us is a sign of God's presence? The existence of the weird tree in Harry Potter, and even the evil villain of the series, Voldemort, don't lead us to think the author, J.K. Rowling, is absent. Many of us read on, keen to see the outcome, the victory. What if our lives are also part of a bigger story, of what God is doing in the world, and even in our lives, and grasping that bigger story would transform our understanding and experience of the difficulties and chaos around us. Just remember this: when a train goes through a tunnel and it gets dark, you don't throw away the ticket and jump off. You sit still and trust the engineer. So the big question is what you're experiencing right now everything, or is there a bigger story, an author? Is the train shuttling on with no driver, or is there ultimately someone we can trust, even in the darkness and confusion? The intensifying conflicts between Israel and Iran. While we're at it, I also want to talk more about another event that has caused just as much chaos in the world. Israel is now in its darkest hour since the War of Independence in May 1948. We know that Iran has sponsored terrorism like Hamas for a long time. But when Iran directly attacked Israel, that is literally without precedent. Iran's attack on Israel was a watershed moment in the country's history tensions in the Middle East have reached a boiling point. Moreover, the attack marked a significant shift in the country's strategic thinking and approach to dealing with its longtime regional adversary. Rather than restoring the balance with Israel, Iran has opened up the prospect of further escalation. The air raid sirens echoing across various regions, from northern and southern Israel to the northern West Bank and the Dead Sea, have reignited fears of a broader conflict. As news of Iran's attack spread, people wondered about the possibility of World War III. Now, let's take a look at some prophecies to see how they predict the next global war, and whether it has anything to do with the complicated relationship between Israel and Iran. Blind psychic Baba Vanga, who apparently had rightfully predicted the nightmare of America as well as the COVID-19 pandemic, also made a scary prediction of 2024. For the year 2024, the mystic predicted numerous dark events which included biological attacks, terrorist attacks in Europe, as well as World War III, which some are finding eerily possible as tensions escalated in the Middle East and Iran launched missiles and drones on Israel. Not only that. For a long time, The Simpsons amazed the world with predictions that came true. And once again, as the year 2024 approaches, along with events happening in the world, there are invisible signs that almost coincide with The Simpsons' predictions. On November 22, 1987, a special episode of The Simpsons aired on The Tracy Ullman Show. Although it was very hilarious, there might be a hidden message in there somewhere. The episode centers around Homer Simpson repeatedly pranking his family with World War III scares many times during the episode. Let's also take a look at the episode 17 of the series' 23rd season. In this episode, there's a scene where Homer loses his job because his employer replaced all the human employees with robots. Well, considering the military strides and the link to the development of artificial intelligence, is the future of AI replacing humans doing terrible things coming very close? So, Homer Simpson waking up his family members and telling them to quickly run to the shelter because World War III is approaching is also a theory worth considering. So, what does the Bible talk about this relationship? In Ezekiel 38, you see prophecies about Iran attacking Israel, and in Jeremiah 49, you see another prophecy about Iran being attacked. In Ezekiel 38, we see that Israel will be attacked when it is safe and prosperous. People believe Israel will destroy its enemies, Hamas, Hezbollah, Lebanon, and Iran, and will enjoy a period of peace and prosperity before being attacked as described in Ezekiel 38, which talks about Persia's aligning with other nations to attack Israel. However, Jeremiah 49:34-39 is where we can read in detail about Iran's future, including its end-times destiny. According to Jeremiah 49, Iran will go through an unthinkable period of adversity, hardship, and tribulation. Iranians have been suffering a lot, and they will suffer even more before God's promise for blessing is fulfilled. Today, they are enduring great calamities in every area of their lives, and they see no end to it. They cannot speak up or complain. When they do, they face bullets. As a result, Iranians are turning to Christ in such large numbers and with such deep commitment that it is unprecedented in history. God is breaking the pride and the will of Iranians to humble them so that He can bless them. He is allowing them to be desperate so they will seek Him. He is allowing them to be hopeless so that He will be their only hope. This suffering is bringing a great revival. As missiles flew and drones were intercepted, the biblical foretelling of Ezekiel and Jeremiah might seem more relevant than ever, suggesting we are edging closer to their prophetic fulfillment. Almost all predictions about World War III have many similarities to the war going on in the Middle East today. This direct conflict begins in 2024, and with the current tense situation, it will certainly not stop there. The whole world seems to be looking to Israel to wait for this country's response. Is it fulfilling the prophecy, nation to rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom? Mental health is alarming, but even for those not directly affected, exposure to continuous tragedy can have emotional consequences that are difficult to manage. Still, complete withdrawal isn't a moral choice. So how does one respond to the world's chaos in a way that is socially responsible and that preserves mental well-being? You can only make change if you understand what the problem is. And so, learning about atrocities in the world is the only way to prevent more atrocities from happening. The more overwhelmed we are, the less helpful and effective we become. It can seem selfish to pause when there is so much suffering. So as hard as it is for people to grasp, we do need rest. Rest allows regeneration, which allows for more intentional choices for change. When crises happen far away, it can be easy to forget the impact we can have at home by simply talking to people around us, like our friends and family. Depending on the topic and the parties involved, these conversations can be emotionally charged. But when undertaken with care, an in-person conversation can make a bigger difference than a social media post. Start to believe in God. Whether political, financial, or human interest, we find little in the news that fails to inflict grief or further anxiety upon our bedraggled hearts. Now, more than ever, learning how to trust God in a chaotic world becomes indispensable. Learning to recognize God and what He has for us in each divine moment He offers. We acknowledge the belief that God is with us always. We confess His presence is available to us, lifting our spirit and helping us with power and grace. Learning the art of stillness so we can hear His voice and view ourselves, others, and our surroundings through His eyes. God then led us into a deeper intimacy with Him, learning new levels of trust throughout the month of August. From a place of deep trust, we fully grasp the immutability of God, leading to living confidently in a chaotic world. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though the waters thereof roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Selah. Our confidence in the midst of global unrest, natural disasters, pestilence, and personal trial fully rests in the God who never changes. Though all around us crumble, we remain safe in the refuge of Almighty God. Learning how to trust God in a chaotic world invites us press pause in various ways and areas of our lives. This last Monday in August, I wrap up our mindfulness journey into deeper trust and intimacy with God. Revisiting each stop of our journey, I recap important lessons and tips for mindfully promoting an attitude of trust, calm, and rest. After spending time cultivating an attitude of rest, we moved to our first stop to trusting God in times of chaos. From a place of spiritual rest, we find courage for exercising our faith when God asks us to step out in obedience. Whether that obedience involves stepping out into a new ministry opportunity, placing a complicated situation into His hands, or walking a dim path with no end in sight, while resting in His loving presence, we trust. God graciously taught me how to find the true spiritual rest my soul needed from the safety of intimacy with Him. We mindfully walked through 4 practical steps of praise, vulnerability, remembrance, and acceptance for trusting from a place of rest. When we shift our posture from one of anxious reactivity to one of surrendered rest, we move to a place of heart stillness. From pausing in the revelation of God's power and security, our turmoil of heart now silenced, moves us towards a posture of trust. As the Lord gently guided me through a better understanding of intentional rest, my comprehension of trust richly increased. Uniquely, trust flows from a place of rest, but rest also flows from a place of trust. While pursuing how to trust God in a chaotic world, an intentional pause positions us for hearing instruction from God, strengthening our trust in Him for the unpredictable road ahead. Embracing rhythms of rest in times of unpredictability brings clarity within the chaos. Embracing quietness of heart and mind, we cease operating from a place of fear, trusting in our own understanding. Seeking a quiet, calm posture before God overflows our hearts with peace as He provides certainty in each step of trust we take with Him. For He is our strength, confidence, and power in the face of every uncertain step. Trusting God in a chaotic world invites us into a secure place of refuge in the presence of Jesus Christ, the same yesterday, today, and forever. Hebrews 13:8. Our trust in an unchangeable God in the midst of instability, in global events, financial situations, or life's trials fortifies our hearts with confidence and hope. Choosing intentional rest, quietness of mind and heart through reflection on God's past faithfulness and future promises, and release of expectations and control to God's sovereignty, ultimately strengthens us to trust God in a chaotic world. The death of Pope. Let's continue with the Les prophecies and Nostradamus' prediction. According to Nostradamus, we could be facing a year that could mean the farewell to Pope Francis, who at 87 years of age in 2024 has already gone through several health problems. The Pope had to skip the UN climate conference because of lung inflammation and breathing problems. Through the death of a very old pontiff, a Roman of good age will be elected. Of him it will be said that he weakens his see, but long will he sit and in biting activity, Nostradamus wrote. While the arrival of a younger, vigorous pope sounds like a good thing, Nostradamus immediately goes on to say that the new leader will weaken his see and that he will be pope for a long time. The exact meaning of weaken is of course open to debate. Does he mean the influence of the church will somehow lessen, or is some greater scandal on the way? Well, only time will tell. However, it's essential to note that his writings, particularly in Les prophéties, are written in a cryptic and metaphorical style that is open to various interpretations. Many of his quatrains are vague and can be applied to different events. The coming of Jesus Christ. Nostradamus' predictions often use language from the Bible, especially about the end of the world. It's like each verse points to Jesus coming in anger to set up his great kingdom on earth and judge the world fairly. Some believe that he predicted this year's earthquake in Japan with lines like, "The dry earth will become more parched, and there'll be great floods." He also mentioned that 2024 would have a great famine through a harmful wave. To describe this verse, it can be understood that the already harsh climate situation will get worse. The French prophet predicts that extreme weather phenomena such as record heat, forest fires, droughts, and storms will increasingly occur with greater frequency and intensity. Global warming is a huge phenomenon going on in the modern day. The Bible does not specifically talk about climate change or global warming. However, the Bible does tell us the world will eventually be burned in fire, which could be another way to understand how alarming the Earth's condition will gradually become. 2 Peter 3:10 informs us, "But the day of the Lord will come like a thief. The heavens will disappear with a roar, the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything done in it will be laid bare." God will one day erase this current universe and replace it with the new heavens and new earth. How much effort should be made saving a planet that God is eventually going to obliterate and replace with a planet so amazing and wonderful that the current earth pales in comparison? In Matthew 24:5-8, Jesus gives us some important clues for discerning the approach of the end times. "Many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Christ,' and will deceive many. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. An increase in false messiahs, an increase in warfare, and increases in famines, plagues, and natural disasters. These are signs of the end times.